Hey, welcome to another Ed Talks. Really excited to have Manish Mehta with us because Manish, you and I worked together at Tech Mahindra.
That's correct, Ed.
And we actually worked together on a pretty big project, a pretty big deal.
It was, we gave a very nice number to the client. Unfortunately, they were not ready for it, but it was great experience working
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. So that was the first time and it was great. Yeah. I just love working with like really motivated, passionate, professional people, and so we really made that connection. And now you, just like I have from Tech Mahindra, you moved on as well. You're now the vice president, CTO, healthcare and life sciences North America of Eviden.
That's correct.
And so, tell us how that happened.
So Evident is just a rebranding of the old company that I was working for. I worked for Atos. Atos is a pretty large company, a large system integrator. And recently they split out the digital business into a brand new entity called Evident. So it's not a new job technically, it's just a split of the company. And healthcare is all that I have done. And when they opened up this new role of CTO, I couldn't say no to it. It aligned very well with my career trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Tech Mahindra what could they say? It's like, what? It's a great compliment to our former company. Whenever someone goes on and does great things like yourself. Hey, tell me about the best customer experience you've had this past year. It could be in anything.
Uh, Very timely, question that I just came back from my trip to India, and obviously, like all trips, is overwhelming. So we land at the airport, and I called an Uber driver. The person came. Car was clean, absolutely nice. So that was the first thing I liked. But he dropped me to a place called Pune, which is 4 hours drive from Mumbai. And then when I had to come back, I called the same guy again because I knew the car was clean. I know he would come, but the trip from Mumbai to Pune, me and my family, we were struggling. We wanted to get a hotspot because we all of us had come landed in India. We didn't have connectivity. We wanted water. He was listening to all of that. And when I booked my trip from Pune to Mumbai, he made sure there was a hotspot in the car for us. There were cold water bottles for us, and that was, I would say that's a good example of a service where a person is listening, right? And then at the time comes, he delivered. So I left a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
That's a good example of a good customer service I experienced.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's a really good example. Hey, tell me about one thing your parents forced you to do and you're glad in hindsight that they did. Like probably when they did it, you probably weren't happy, but now, a few years later, you're like, I'm glad they forced me.
The list is pretty big on that topic. My parents were very, very stern, and especially my mother. But one thing, if I have to say, my father, I came from a modest background, and then when I found a job in IT, obviously, your earning potential is high, so you tend to spend more. My father made a rule that no credit card, and I hated that point, right? So I was sort of independent. I was working at a multinational company, but he made sure that I don't get a credit card. I think now I understand the intent behind it. He wanted me to appreciate money better.
Yeah.
And now when I see my kids, I could relate to that. So that's one good life example that he taught me. No credit card.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one, actually. Yeah, so let's go there a little bit as we, and we'll get into sort of the meaty section here in a minute. What you're doing today, and what you see as a systems integrator.
Yeah,
But before we get there, yeah, tell us a little bit about your life. So, did you grow up in India before you came to the United States?
that is correct, Ed. I grew up in Mumbai, India, and you know, I am into IT by, I would say, pure accident. I'm a commerce graduate. People with that career field either become accountants or lawyers. They kind of take a more non-IT job per se. But my father's friend, he gifted a computer. He had a very old computer lying around. He didn't use it. It came to my house, and probably that triggered the whole chain of events, which I attribute myself to. So yeah, I was coding. I was, writing tools for my dad, for account reconciliation, for birthday reminders, and so on and so forth. And I think that kind of sparked interest. So it kind of went from that route. I'm not a programmer or IT person by education. I'm into this field because of my passion and what I like. Since I loved coding and programming so much, I found a job very quickly in the field. And then the first 3 years, I was blessed to be part of a R&D team. I couldn't have asked for a better experience in a company called Sintel, which was acquired by Atos. But Sintel is what gave me the first experience. And then as part of that, I got picked up by Microsoft as their global MVP. It's a very hand-picked award that is given to around 150 people a year. So I was able to get that for 3 straight years, and that catapulted my career to multiple fields. So it's been a rewarding journey. I love what I do. Hence, I kind of go after the role that I am right now.
Yeah.
But it's been a rewarding journey, both professionally and personally.
That's great. And did you meet your wife in India or in the United States?
I met her in India. She stayed not too far from me, although in India, arranged marriages are common. Ours was an arranged marriage. But it's as if we are made for each other. So yeah, she's also in IT, and we met in India.
Okay, that's great. And what's her first name?
Her name is similar to mine. Her name is Mansi, Mansi, Mansi. It's called. I'm Manish. She's Mansi.
Yeah, very nice. No, there's always such pretty names. As you know, my wife's name's Simran. I think it's a really pretty name. So yeah, let's go into sort of digital now. Let's start at a high level. We'll talk about what is digital transformation, and because not everyone has the same. There's a lot of different definitions, which is fine, but at least it'll provide context for our conversation. And then you spent a little bit of time outside of the straight provider side, so I'd be interested, what other things that we can learn from others doing digital transformation. So yeah, so digital transformation, what is that sort of?
A loaded question there, right? As you rightly said, there are many definitions, and I think all definitions are right. But when I look at a North Star of what a digital transformation can be, I have a very simplified view for myself. To me, I would say any organization that is able to predict, attract, and retain their clients without having to worry about the underlying people, process, and technology. So anything that limits a client from being able to predict what the customer needs, able to attract new clients and retain the existing clients without really finding out, oh, I'm using a legacy system or a new system, my people are not trained. I mean, that's a true digital transformation where they're able to do that in real time, even before the customer thinks about it. So that to me is digital transformation. You can do it, as I said, in many different ways. But if you're able to achieve these, to me, that's a typical North Star milestone for a client to have achieved digital transformation.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I know that you see, I know you're primarily healthcare, and that's where a lot of your experience lays. But have you seen anything from other industries that you'd love to see happen in healthcare?
Of course, Ed. I did work in retail for some time and also hospitality for some time. And I think those are the two industries that can give a good light to the healthcare. Retail does a good job in anticipating consumer demands, right? And creating an experience that the consumers are able to come back to over and over again. Like Amazon is a very good example, right? So healthcare can really do good with that whole mentality. And then hospitality, on the other hand, they know how to take care of a client, right, and put the client on the top, and then revolve their services around the client. Unfortunately, in healthcare, we speak about it, but that's not exactly what is happening today. So these two industries, I would say, can create a lot of good use cases for healthcare. Manufacturing, on the other hand, right, the way they have streamlined the entire value chain, the process flow and automation, it's a big area where healthcare supply chain can also mimic as it is, right, from that industry. So there are many good learnings that can come from these industries.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I love to ask a question. And one other thing before we get into some of the things that you're seeing as systems integrator is because I think we're going to touch on this a little bit, is omnichannel versus multi-channel. So when someone throws that out, what's omnichannel versus multi-channel?
Again, a loaded question there, right? I mean, technically, it has a different meaning, but from a healthcare business, I would say, when you are addressing a consumer, you don't want different teams telling the consumer same thing in different ways, right? So you want the consumer to feel they are talking to a hospital system or a payer, right, in a consistent way. So it's a consistent messaging or consistent engagement with the client or a consumer is what I call omni-channel. Underlying, you might have a web interface and a mobile interface and a marketing communication going on, but as long as they are unified and achieving the same goal, that to me is the indicator of a omnichannel interface.
So it's almost like a platform might be another word, right? If you have an enterprise platform instead of best of breed.
Enterprise platform, best of breed. Now, if you really peel the layers of onion, yes, a true omnichannel will mean that you are not having multiple platforms to do the same thing. A single platform because obviously these are expensive platforms, right? I mean, engaging a client is not cheap. Your PMPM costs go up, and so many things can go up. So having a common enterprise platform can be the foundation.
Yeah, I'm a big believer sort of in that enterprise, omnichannel. So yeah, you have a unique point of view from all of the experiences that you've shared with us. So let's talk about some things you're seeing as a systems integrator. So what are, especially in healthcare, what are you seeing out there?
That's the best part I like about this job, right? Being a system integrator, we have the benefit to work with many clients, be it the largest health system or the health plan, to the most small regional health system which is making a real impact in the community. And there are many tailwinds and headwinds going on in healthcare right now. As you right know, you are an expert, so I don't have to tell you what those are. But some of the things that I see often these days for the past year or two are around 4 or 5 items. I can go through them in line by line. First thing I see is mostly around patient engagement, right, or consumer engagement. That's what we have been talking about, the channel interfaces and whatnot. I think with pandemic, a lot of healthcare companies did accelerate, right, and made their consumer engagement a lot more better, right? So 5 years ago, it was not to the level where we see it today. But what is happening is in that rush to get to that consumer engagement, a lot of technical debt has been created. As you rightly said, there are multiple platforms have been created to do the same thing. I think more and more progressive healthcare clients are looking to get away from that model and take it a step further to make it a true, unique omni-channel consumer interface, a member interface, which is having the customer journeys as part of it, but also using native services of their core platform. For example, Epic, right? Epic has a nice web view that they come up with. There's no need to replicate that while you are doing your own experiences. So more progressive view is to create a consumer experience which uses the native platform and not create something of your own. So I think we are getting there, but that's one common thread that I see with a lot of client engagements or interaction that we have, and how to create a member experience and how to make it sustainable and scalable.
Yeah, that's really important. What about generative AI? Everyone talks about AI.
You can't get away from it, Ed. I mean, that's I'm a hands-on person, so I like to kind of try it on myself at a deeper level, and so far what I'm seeing, experiencing, like everybody else, it is a promising technology. When it comes to a practical application for healthcare in particular, Ed, I would say there are three buckets where you can put it on, right? The generative AI is an evolving topic. On the leftmost side, right, you will have clients who would like to do experimentation and POCs, right? I have this unique problem. Can I use Gen AI to address the solution? My doctors are spending too much time communicating with the patient. Can a Gen AI start giving me templates? There's an experimentation kind of thing. Then there are platforms that these healthcare clients have invested in, right? These platforms are integrating Gen AI as a default feature. I believe that's where the immediate power lies, because Microsoft, Amazon, Epic, right? They are now integrating Gen AI by default. So I think tapping onto them and using them as their first go-to approach is probably what makes more sense. And then on the extreme rightmost side, are the customers who want to do their own Gen AI in-house, environment, which is very complex, very expensive. But that to me, is only viable if there is a very solid business use case, either a security concern or some major use case driving it. So there are many variations that I see people using Gen AI. Most of the clients that I speak to are either experimenting with it or planning to leverage the core platform capability to advance this for their advantage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I've been playing around with it as well. It's kind of fun, the different things you can do.
It is. I mean, I use it personally, for many such day-to-day activities. So you can't stay away from it. But when it comes to business use case, especially healthcare, consumer clients have limited budget, limited bandwidth. So they need to pick and choose where they need to invest the money to get the most out of it.
Yeah. That always has been sort of a theme though for me as a leader, and kind of a challenge to the audience is, if you're a leader, especially in tech, and something new comes out, you've got to go and start getting your hands dirty, start playing
Absolutely.
around, learning it. So whether it's Chat GBT, right? I've used it to write a script. I do some little comedy things, and I used to help write scripts. I use it for PowerPoints. I've been
Yes.
experimenting quite a bit with it. And that way I know. And even though I might not be able to use it in a clinical setting, not being a clinician, at least I, have a greater understanding. So it's always good to
Yes.
jump right in, and so it doesn't surprise me that you do that as well.
Yes.
Anything else that you're seeing? I know we covered a few items. Anything else you're seeing as a systems integrator?
Oh, yes, good. I have a few more to cover. So, cloud, obviously, right, is a very favorite topic. And again, this is not new for healthcare. I believe healthcare has embraced cloud. Uh, you know, where we were 5 years ago, where most of the discussion were, oh, is cloud secure? Now, my security does not necessarily allow me going to the cloud. That discussion has now gone into how do I make the best out of my cloud? I've already bought, I've already purchased agreements with, large hyperscalers. How do I make the best use of it, right? So I think that's a very positive development. But again, in cloud also, right, I see variations of how customers are using it. A lot of clients are still doing a lift and a shift. Uh, that's not a bad thing to do, but that's where you don't really get the power of the cloud to your advantage. So I think more and more discussion we are having is how healthcare clients can start using cloud as a platform, right? Eliminate some of your technical debt, reduce your cost, right, and use those manpower to a better place. But use cloud as a platform, gives you a much more longer shelf life, to the things you're developing, but more importantly, developing native healthcare components. So using that as a kind of a Lego block and assembling your application or using some components of those gives you a whole lot of force multiplier when you are developing things like a scheduling application or an analytics application. So I think that's where we are talking to more of our clients to start using cloud more strategically. And all of this, one qualifier that I put all the time is that it's very easy to drown yourself in cloud, because when you have, let's say, infrastructure as code, a click of a button, you can span off, let's say, 100 servers, not even knowing what the underlying costs are, right? So setting up a financial governance to know what you're doing on cloud has a financial impact, what it is, so that your teams can be better informed. So while we do move on the strategic shift, keeping an eye on financial governance of cloud is utmost important.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah. Anything else? I think we have time for one more.
Yes, interoperability, right? Our favorite topic, right? We used to speak about that when
Yeah.
we work together, right? And it's a boon, right? I think having the mandate come in as a technical infrastructure, allowing the system to interoperate is a great thing. But we are talking to clients to not stop at just from a compliance standpoint, right? The power of interoperability will come when the data that is getting assembled is used meaningfully, but augmenting that with, let's say, third-party rich sources, social determinants health data, for example, right? Augmenting this data with more rich sources will give the power that will help decision makers to take better decisions. So I think interoperability is one topic. While it's a complete focus area for many of our clients, we are encouraging them to go a step further and start incorporating non-traditional sources of health data and making the real use of that power. So interoperability is another topic that we see a lot of focus on.
Yeah, I think we just got a short masterclass of all the big things going on right now that, if you're a leader in tech and on the provider side, these are the things that are probably top of mind, because you need to do these things in order to get to the digital transformation that we started off with.
Precisely. And again, uh, the as I said, because of the pandemic and because of a lot of investments in the past few years, I'm seeing a change in the healthcare leaders. They are bringing in people from other industries as part of healthcare. That is bringing a little bit more fresh outside in thought process, driving some of these progressive conversations.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, we definitely saw a pretty big percentage of people come from outside healthcare. I think it's always good, as I know you agree, to bring in fresh ideas, new ideas from other industries and other technologies, and just take the best of the best and make the transformation happen. Hey, I want to end up with just one leadership question before we end our time together. Let's think about it in a work context. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I had the pleasure of working with many mentors who, constantly teach me, coach me on good things. But the best advice I think came from a movie, a Will Smith movie called After Earth. He says that danger is real, but fear is optional.
Hmm.
Right, and I'm a very risk averse person, Ed. But when I take a risk, a thought like that encourages me to think of it differently. By no So yeah, that's one advice that I received, because in business, in the position that I am, and the evident that I help support, we have to take decisions for our clients, for their benefit. And sometimes, taking a little bit of risk in those decisions in a calculated way always pays out. So that's one advice that I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. That's great. Manish, we talked about a lot of different things. Everything from, hey, what's digital transformation, your personal background. Then we talked about, hey, these are the 5, 6 things you're seeing as a systems integrator. And then the great piece of advice that you just dropped on us from Will Smith. Is there anything you want to double down on, or you get the final word?
No, thank you, Ed. Thank you. This is very good conversation, and always a pleasure talking to you. There's one thing that I am also personally wrapping my head around, is this whole PBM. In healthcare, we always speak about payer provider life sciences, and a PBM kind of stays on the side a lot of times. And with a lot of things going on in this space, and especially new entrants, I think that's one area that I'm personally focused on. So yeah, that's one thing we can double down in future conversation also, on how PBM controls the whole value chain, especially from a cost and quality of care perspective.
Yeah, because going back to digital transformation, it's hard to do this transformation in healthcare because of all these giant silos.
Yes.
And so we can do like all the things you're seeing as systems integrator, we can do a lot of that within one of these silos. Like as a provider, I can do the
Precisely.
interoperability, I can do the cloud, I can do the generative AI.
Yeah.
But man, to go vertical, let's see,
Yeah.
horizontal, very challenging.
Horizontal.
And
Very challenging.
that's the challenge of healthcare, and that's why
Yes.
people like yourself and I and those watching, we're all on that mission to try to knock down those silos and make things better for people and patients and members. So, Manish,
Precisely.
thank you so much. It was great reconnecting, but thank you so much for being on Ed Talks.
Always a pleasure, Ed. Always talking to you and interacting with you.
All right, that wraps up another edition of Ed Talks. Hey, we know you have a lot of choices, what to watch or what to listen to, and we're happy you made a choice to be with us. Thank you.